This is not real. This is not real. This life, this fiction, this thing, this space between the lines that I call me. When I was born, I was told there was blood. So much blood they were certain that my mother would die. And yet, her strength, her will to go on, kept her in this place for 30 years, long enough to see me grow, but not much longer than that. And as I grew, so too did the world. Farms to factories, fields to throughways. And we wove a web of ideas like stardust to bring us closer to the strangers among us, or so we thought. So we believed. But this is not real. This connection by wires, this network of signal and noise, this playground. I remember playgrounds, dangerous places, where we invented our future selves by skinning knees and shoving our enemies, by telling our lies and even by breaking our arms. And even then I knew that all of these constructs, these jungle gyms, these jungle gyms, these seesaws or teeter-totters, these were not real. These were limitations, these barriers, unfounded, and I sought escape into the real, the real, the real. I would stand transfixed, and I would watch the trees, the branches swaying, dancing, twisting, the leaves alive, and never repeating their motion, unbound, swirls of color, ever changing, green to yellow, yellow to red, sky to earth, and then earth to sky. I was keenly and painfully unaware that I was a little different. And while they played tag or football or gave chase, I stood there and stared at the limitless wild, unboxed, unchained, and knew that I was more a tree than a boy. And then the teacher, she shook me. She yelled in my face, for recess had ended and I hadn't noticed. I hadn't reacted. And so I was brought down the hall to the nurse to be measured and poked and prodded and questioned, assessed and evaluated. And after it all, my poor bloodied mother was called to the school and told her boy was special, was different. And she stared at them coldly and said, "Yes, I know." The girls would laugh. They would shy away for years, each day. And that boy, Jamie, grabbed my wrist and said I should play or I should fight. And I stared straight through him, straight through to the trees, and I did not answer or react at all. And so he hit me, punched me in the chest, rattled my heart in its little cage, and I lashed out with my fist and shattered his face in spirals of red and fragments of white. All the others ran, and I stood staring down at him, sprawled, blood running and pooling, the deep rusty red staining the leaves like time, like sunlight. And I felt nothing. No pride, no shame, no pain in my hand or in my heart or in my head. And the teacher, she shook me and yelled in my face, and so I was brought again down the hall to the nurse to be measured and questioned, poked and prodded, assessed and evaluated. And after it all, my poor bloodied mother was called to the school and told that her boy was twisted and dangerous. And she stared at them coldly and she said, "Yes, I know." I am not a robot. I am not a robot. I am meat like you. But inside my wiring is different than yours. And as I got older, I grew stronger, limitless. Like those trees, tall, unboxed, and unchained, I never feared blood, any more than the leaf would fear the sun. I was quick and unbending, unflinching and hard, sharp and resilient, in fire or under it. And even while watching my mother's last breath, her eyes rolling back, her mouth falling open, I sat there in stillness, swirling inside, but still on the outside, like plastic, like metal. Now, that is not to say that I didn't cry. I cried for 10 minutes. Then I collected her things and signed on the lines and walked out the door into the night and stared at the trees, swaying in the wind, painting the sky with their brushstroke branches through the light rain. And I thought to myself, this is not real. This is not real. This life, this fiction, this thing, this space between the lines that I called mother. And so I moved on. So did the world. It moved on with me, with books of faces, with drones and machines, and I felt no different than when I had been punched in the chest and sent to the nurse and measured and poked and prodded, questioned, assessed, and evaluated. I gave the answers that they wanted me to give. I saw the pictures that they wanted me to see, not the spray of dots and lines, but rather the pretty flower, or the two cats sitting, not the leaves in the blood, but the clouds in the sky. And I went underground, inside of myself, and I danced with the trees in the wet moonlight. And that's where I lived, content, contained, serving a purpose, being of use, and that was all fine until I met you. You. You were electric, dazzling light, supercharged and iridescent. You lit my skin aflame with your touch and woke me from a slumber so deep I would have sworn to God that you yourself were a dream. You reached down effortlessly into my chest, into this cage, and touched my heart, gentle but strong. You made me breathe, set me free, brought me up out of myself, away from the blood, away from the nurse, down that long dark hallway and out into the light, into the air. You were the only one who ever noticed that little boy staring at the trees, longing to be free, trapped inside that heart-shaped box, trapped inside the space between the lines that I call me. You turned me on and made me smile and laugh and shout. No robot, no tree, but a man, at last, a man. And then you left. If I could tell you, if I could wring out the words, if I could paint you a poem, the sound of the leaves, the color of the light, if I could show you how much you meant to me, how much you saved me from darkness, from the knife, from myself. If I could write you that love song, I wonder if you would come back to me. I wonder if you would stay. I wonder if you would love me. But that is not real. That is not real. That life, that fiction, that thing, that space in between the lines that we called love. And I am just a robot, wrapped in meat. I am just a tree dressed as a man. And this is not a poem. It is a painting of a poem. And it is no more real than a picture of a tree, no more real than the heart of the Tin Man, and no more real than love. It is the lines and the spaces between the lines, the dots and strokes, the colors mixed and mashed, manipulated, pushed down, and spread thin to give the illusion of substance, the impression of a connection. And you and I, and the leaves in the trees, and the paint on the canvas are tricks of the light. It's sleight of hand, lifelike plastic empathy droids. And it may not be the life we dreamed, but it is the life we live. And in the end, that is all there is. Just the things we see.